All right, everyone. Welcome to the first show. Then,
Yeah, welcome.
time for the intro. All right, today we're talking about Halloween just in time for Halloween. Yeah,
It's funny how that worked out.
yeah, it's
I guess
almost
we're
like it was
extremely
planned.
fortunate. Yeah.
Let me bring up the format to show this. Add to stream.
There we go.
I've got a bit of an overlay there ahead of time. So let's just go through the movie scene by scene and see what we think, and then we'll give a summary at the end. And let's see. Here we go. So
And then nobody will ever have to watch the movie again.
Round 216, we're introduced to a young Michael Myers. I'm sure he loves being called Michael. Just like the comedian.
It's his birthday today.
Yeah.
Oh.
Cake and ice cream's on its way. So, something I did pick up the first viewing that I did pick up the second time around. There, when he's at the window, he gets very agitated watching this. He's it's pretty clear that he fixates on people. Well, in various situations like this, as it goes on further throughout the film. Let's see. Go to.
It's sort of the Jason style. You know, it's like you can't do this.
Even though the director absolutely disavows this.
Well, you know.
Yeah, you know how it is. He waits to see when the lights go out. Goes in and grabs a kitchen knife.
As the critics say, right? The author is dead, and he was killed by the Halloween monster.
Yeah, which is in this case a 6-year-old boy. Of course, you go in the first kill, and then
are we going to say anything about the really long shot here?
Yeah, the this continuous shot. There's 3 cuts that people don't notice all that often. I believe it's. Let me pull it up again. I believe when he puts the mask on, which I think is about here. No, it's about 10 seconds ahead.
Yeah.
He puts the mask on, and the camera's blocked. There's a point where he's killing, which is done for pacing very clearly.
Yeah. I think it's kind of interesting how it's framed here, because although he's supposed to be this kid, right from the start, he's framed as being outside the house. And although it's like the only time we get to see from his perspective, we do get those shots later on when he's doing, he's stalking the kid and stuff like that, where we kind of have the camera behind him, sort of a person's height view, right? Looking at, sort of looking into a world of normality from outside.
Yeah, I think you can tell already that his sister clearly doesn't care for him all that much. She's like, oh, he's around somewhere in the house. There's already some sort of distance in there. Let's see. We scroll further along. Iconic little moment here. Already dressed in costume.
Yeah. I feel like this doesn't quite fit into the rest of the movie as much as I'd like it to, because it feels like part of the characterization of the murderer is that he's, inhuman, he's the boogeyman. But right here we just have the kid, and there's like very little integration of that, I feel.
Yeah, the only way it gets integrated is around, let's see, this next segment here, when we talk to the doctor, or the
Yeah,
doctor's talking, and he says, "Oh, I've been watching this kid for a while. It's not human."
yeah.
But I think it may be a subconscious thing. Uh, you can't help but kind of sympathize with a child, even if the child's a murderer. And I think the way they frame that shot kind of sets up a very different humanized version of him that doesn't really manifest in the rest of the film.
Well, not only does it manifest, it feels like it's a little bit extraneous to the effective horror of the film, right?
Yeah, I'd agree. I
And
think yeah, because the point is he's not really human in the way other people are really.
yeah,
He's more like a force of nature.
and I feel like that initial shot really just doesn't initialize that very well. I mean, the whole the whole sequence, the shot from the perspective of the killer works for doing that, but the sort of pan out um, doesn't. Even though I think sort of on its own, it's pretty effective as horror because you just see a kid, right? So the juxtaposition of the brutality and the sort of
Yeah.
normal as normal as a kid dressed as a clown can be,
Yeah,
right?
I'd agree. I think and it is interesting that this film is known for that point of view of the killer shot, but it does not come up ever again in the film. There's no
Yeah,
other point where you see from Michael's eye
yeah.
line.
Uh,
He's always in frame somewhere when you see him.
Yeah. The car shot. Remember the car shot outside the school? Where's that? It's pretty early on, right? It's like
Yes. Let's see. I believe, were we talking around? I think. Look at this timestamp here.
it's like a
For uh, yes, it's around 16, I believe.
yeah, like around
Yeah.
16, maybe 17 minutes, right? It's I think that's a very effective shot. It might be one of the most effective shots in the movie.
This one here,
Yeah,
where the point of view is behind him.
yeah,
In it's similar. It is sort of point of view from him, but the direction, it kind of makes you feel like you're like a helpless person being carried along.
yeah. Well, and also just because it really draws on I think a still very present fear of um, people stalking children.
Yeah, which I think if we scroll back around here, you can kind of see this happening. This, we're skipping ahead a bit, but this moment is also pretty creepy. It's like, is this the kid? No. Oh no, I guess not. On to the next one. Yeah, that's the right reaction.
I like that shot as well because hiding the head, I obviously that has a practical effect of sort of obscuring who he is and so on and so forth. But it also um, it sort of sets it at the kid's point of view, right? Because sort of a Charlie Brown, wah 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 effect, right? You're
Yeah,
too short to see his head.
almost.
Um,
Yeah, and you can still see in the background Tommy is there,
yeah,
just feeling a bit sad, and then obviously his eyeline moves along with it.
but yeah,
And the reason that he's focused on Tommy is, of course, from earlier when he saw Tommy walking with Lori, who he became fixated with around, I believe, it was here. Yeah, there we go. You see the slight silhouette of him in the background there.
it does feel a bit curious because the way he pays attention to her is different from her two friends, right? Sort of because if the premise is uh, the boogeyman Myers kills people who are who remind him of his trauma and so on and so forth, with the
The sister.
right with his sister and her boyfriend or whatever he is. Um, she seems to be single, right?
Yeah, she's very different from most of the people here.
Like,
There are of course later films that kind of add to this, but
I
for
guess,
what we see in this movie, uh,
or what I mean to say is he fixates on her because it's like he probably sees the little brother older sister relationship, and she's involved with the house that he was in. But the ones he
yeah,
ends up, or like he ends up including the two friends of hers because they fit the profile in a different way.
yeah, and because they kind of get in the way of his interaction with Lori.
I guess,
Um,
but
I should probably make sure we don't play too much of the film in a row. I think
yeah.
the
Oh, my point is, imagine this would be a very different story. Not in terms of like filmmaking, but just it would be a different story if like he just decides, oh, I'm just gonna kill her, or I'm just gonna kill the friends, right?
yeah,
Mm,
absolutely.
I know, like if there's any sort of implied but unintended morality in that, it's that the killer the irrationality of the killer, right?
Yeah, it's almost like he's going after Lori after his better judgment or something.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean it's
I've,
it's it's a
he
crime
didn't
of
know she.
passion.
Yeah, obviously he didn't know she existed until he saw her there. He just was heading home.
I do think that's kind of an effective contrast because the implied motive for the crime being, well, either passion or some kind of supernatural fate or force. And on the other hand, um, speaking of fate, right, that's right there, the sort of establishing shot when when they do a very awkward introduction of the concept of fate and never bring it up again. But yeah, so that on the one hand, right, as being the motive, and then on the other hand, the way the movie is shot, he seems extremely emotionless and mechanical and inscrutable.
Yeah, I believe it was here that she
Right,
was asked
right.
about by the teacher. Yeah.
Yeah, and she sort of rattles it off. The implied irony that she doesn't know that she's fated to have I don't know how many sequels. I mean,
Way
but
too many.
way too many
Way too
sequels.
many.
But yeah, I suppose fate is kind of a good way of bridging those two things, but it's also so unexplained that it's a bit bewildering. I mean, it's good in the sense that like fate is traditionally something that turns hubris and human emotion into something that operates according to sort of the mechanism and inhuman and uncaring perspective of the gods or what's beyond the gods. But
Yeah.
and that's sort of what we see going on here is like a moment or crime of passion seems to transform into this um, mechanical, inscrutable killer.
Yeah, it's important to note that he killed on Halloween originally, and this is Halloween that he's doing the killing or attempting to this time around.
I think that
Uh,
goes without saying.
yeah, yeah, but still, there's something. If we're talking about supernatural, there's something to be
That's
said
true.
about that kind of connection. I think.
I
Uh,
think I think that sort of adds to what more and more like on consideration makes this interesting, but also not very neat in some ways, is how eclectic the influences and references are. Right?
yeah, there's a bit of inconsistency in focus. I think.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
there's a lot of ideas that are thrown about. Um, at the end of the day, it's a simple movie,
well,
but there
yeah.
are underlying themes that kind of get a little muddled.
I think that's why, despite the fact that I said I really liked how it was simple, like when we are watching this the first time, I thought it was nice that it was simple, that it was organized, it was structured, methodical was your term. But despite that, if we were going to change it, as hoity-toity editors, I feel like a lot of what we would have done was to cut it further because there's all these sort of extraneous elements that don't integrate so well.
Yeah, I guess speaking of that kind of element, we did skip over this scene.
Right. So say something about the actor because better than I
Yeah,
do.
I mean Donald Pleasance, he was the big name draw for this film. Laurie, lady who plays Laurie, whose name escapes me right now, unfortunately, uh, she was not. She was new to the scene. She was 19 at the time. Donald Pleasance was paid, I think, 20,000 at the time for his role in this film. Uh, he has a much more theatrical background, which, in comparison to pretty much every other actor who's on the screen, you can really feel, even just the way he looks at things. And there's a very specific scene later on, I believe. I took a note of this, where he's talking to the sheriff inside the house, um, where the contrast between the two different acting styles, more theatrical, more naturalistic, really is seen in full display.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see. I believe that would be around page or time 36. We are definitely jumping around here, but that's not too bad if we're just analyzing the film. There's a lot of scenes that probably don't need too much commentary over them.
I think that's another what if story to say. Like, so if you were making the movie or remaking the movie or something like that, one of the things we said we would do is maybe sort of reduce his presence and reduce his dialogue because it doesn't fit in. I wonder if there's a version of this Halloween story where it's all him and it's very theatrical.
Yeah, there definitely would be. I think he's great. Everybody else is pretty good as well, but they just don't mesh as well as they should. I think he was well worth the money they paid him, but it does feel like they had to shoehorn him in to a few different scenes.
Yeah. It would be interesting if this was transformed into like a Shakespearean play or it's its movie equivalent. I think it would actually work better. The sort of eclectic elements would fit in nicer if there was a lot more focus on dialogue.
I'd say so.
Monologue, rather.
The director had, I think, John Carpenter. I was reading a few interviews before this to prep. He had mentioned that he liked the idea of it being set in suburbia and the horror being somewhere close to home, as we of course can see later on towards the end of the film, where it pans around between all the houses.
Yeah,
that seems to be the main theme, is that this is a horror that could happen anywhere.
I think the panning shot works really well to sell the location. I also like remember the extended shot from the back of the car where the girls are driving.
Ah, yes.
And he's following behind them, but the shot is taken from inside the car. I thought that was one of the better shots because it really, that's the one.
Yeah, this one.
Right? Especially when the light comes in. It's sort of visually pleasing in its realism.
Yeah, and also, I think this film excels when it is being as realistic as possible.
Yeah.
But yes, when he's falling, it is a little absurd, as we mentioned, that they wouldn't notice this. But
yeah, like if he was like back here when they're all the way over there, that would have worked better, I think. But like the internal shot itself is, I don't know, maybe I'm just speaking from my own experience, but I feel like that puts me in, the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think if I had a real critique, it would be that there should have been a lot more focus on keeping things more natural and methodical in that way. Just keep things as real as possible.
Yeah,
like this is a very creepy shot here, where he's behind the tree.
That was one of the things that we did complain about quite often. Was there are a lot of effective shots where it's creeping on people, and then there's a lot of them that are a little bit ineffective because it's just pushes the envelope a bit too much. Like with the first girl that he kills when he's outside and like he like pulls on the pot and it falls and shatters. It's like right outside. Not that one.
Not this one. I was just Yeah, I was just finding an
That one too,
example of
though, right? That's
this
kind of
one's. I think this one is probably the most iconic of all the shots.
it's most
Uh,
iconic, but I feel like it's among the most silly.
yeah, that's probably why it's so well recognized and parody online too. It's definitely goofy. Um,
I'm sure you could have done some realism, like you see him there, and then she looks out the window, and you see that he isn't there.
yeah,
That would have
there
been
there are enough moments where Lori actually 100% sees somebody that even if her friends were reassuring her or mocking her for her paranoia, she would not stop being paranoid. I would not stop being paranoid in this situation.
gaslighting. That also comes up later with when she reassures her brother that he didn't see the boogeyman. He was just right outside,
Oh yeah, the boy she's babysitting.
and yeah,
Yeah.
and then he
Let's see.
no that's your brother, right?
No, apparently
Oh, it's not.
it's just a kid she's babysitting.
Oh, they're all okay. Okay,
Yeah. Oh, yeah, and a little nice reference here, the thing from another world.
so they're all
He even
babysitting. Yeah,
Yeah. This is not a reference at the time, but it's a reference now, considering he went on to make the thing.
yeah.
Let's
Um.
see.
Well, regardless, right?
Yeah.
He sees the boogeyman. She sees the boogeyman, and then she tells him, "Oh, it's nothing." And then, very briefly afterwards, he's like completely unconcerned.
Yeah.
That was like one of the few instances that I didn't buy it.
There were a few moments of unrealism in the way people act. I'd say that much. I
But
think
they really
if
do stand out because they're rare,
yeah, that's
or
why they stand. Yeah, you're right.
they're not the norm.
They're not the norm, which is why it bugs me a little bit. Um, let's see. So we've not been going scene by scene, but we're going theme by theme. So
I suppose,
that
yeah.
works.
Let's sort of go back because we can jump forward, right? We can flash back to the future, but we should
Yeah.
sort of go over
So
it. So actually, so at the start we have
I think here.
right. So we have him, right? We have Pleasance. This shot, by the way, I think is kind of remarkable because it was when I complained about sort of it didn't feel very realistic. It's probably because they're doing a night shot in the rain, and
Yeah.
both of those things at once is kind of. Plus, they're doing some special effects, right?
Yeah.
When
Yeah. It would be a very difficult thing to do.
yeah,
Um,
and of course the dialogue there is a bit stilted because
he's
um,
it's introducing some themes. That's Dr. Loomis's role. Really, is to be the narrator and the theme setter. He's the
right.
exposition.
And all of that combines to make what I think is a very uncharacteristic scene for what makes this movie good. Um, I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't either. It's a little strange. Yeah, there we go.
Oh, I will say that the one thing that this shot does really well to establish the killer, which will come up way later,
Yeah, you mean
is his grip strength.
yes? That's a reoccurring thing, which makes him. We're talking during the first viewing about. I mean, look at that hand. About how primal that sort of thing is. Um,
Right. It's like a person who has strong arms, you're like, okay, maybe as a hero. A person who has a strong strangle, it's like, that's probably a baddie.
100%. Yeah.
It's
He
like
doesn't
an
really care about
orangutan.
her in this situation. He's just trying to get the car.
Yeah.
That was something that I didn't bring up, but that did bug me eventually. Is the window's broken, but eventually in later shots it's absolutely not the case.
Oh, yeah, it's discontinuity.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's one of those things you could overlook.
I suppose. Oh, and the other thing is, he moves uncharacteristically quickly.
Yeah, I mean he has to, considering the things he has to do at some points.
I
Um,
know, but I
but
felt
yeah, I
like
agree.
if they had shot it in a way where he just like appears and like walks up slowly and they don't notice until too late, that would have been much more in keeping with his later appearances.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Let's see. Was it 23 minutes in?
I wouldn't be
Something about
shocked
that.
if they like took that shot pretty early on.
Yeah, I would imagine. Any you can assume that anything that appears damaged was shot at the very end, except for the house. The house was cleaned up right towards the end, I believe, for that
Yeah.
opening scene. But yeah, this of course when he just steps behind a friend, goes over to kind of confront it, and then he's gone. Which is the infamous stalker movie slasher villain uh, trope of being able to just teleport, basically. But
Yeah.
it does work to make him very creepy. And then here she's startled by
The
the
sheriff.
father of the father of that girl Annie she was just talking to. Um, he plays a he's kind of his role is basically to be somebody the doctor can talk to. I
Yeah.
think he's the kind of guy that at the time you probably would have assumed would be the hero, right? Uh, he he seems like the standard 60s 70s uh, hero. The sheriff, what stronger, taller.
I don't know. I think he doesn't have the main character face.
That's true. He does have a side character face, absolutely. which is to say, a normal face.
Normal face.
Yeah. Let's see. Trying to make sure. Every once in a while, I gotta check just to make sure the stream isn't.
Is it
Uh,
borking out?
yeah, when you play enough copyrighted materials, every once in a while, even though this is completely fair use.
I know. Well, we'll just pause. So, like, yeah, the sheriff. What is there to say about the place of law enforcement in this story? Because we
I'd
do see
say
him walking around, but he doesn't do much, right?
I'd say they're ineffective at best because let me see. So earlier on this scene, they're
Yeah,
talking they're talking about how the police were completely ineffective in catching him. Like he tried to warn them, they didn't listen. Um,
yeah.
which
I mean,
seems to be this guy's fate.
it's got to be that it's got to be that way. But it is interesting. So it's established early that that there's not going to be the army showing up, the police showing up. They're not going to do anything, and that sort of continued on through the movie pretty consistently. Where even when he's out there to help, he can't really do much. I think that's good, in that
Yeah,
it sets up from the start our expectations about how the killer is going to be dealt with or
yeah,
not
by
dealt with. Yeah,
by a doctor
yeah.
who
Well,
takes his well, yeah, he takes his Hippocratic oath very seriously.
I was going to say, well, that's a lot like Dracula, isn't it?
True. That there are a lot of callbacks to horror tropes. Obviously, in this film, I believe his biggest inspiration is Hitchcock, Psycho, casting the daughter of the star from that as Laurie it was his ultimate homage. I believe he said in an interview, which continue and those films continue on from the literary tradition. So
Yeah.
it all makes sense.
I think I don't know if everyone who's going to watch this video has actually read the Bram Stoker version of Dracula.
But yeah, go ahead into it.
Yeah, but like very briefly, it's really interesting because contrary to what you might expect from so to speak, the secondary literature, um, Dracula the book is very varied in genre of horror. It's not just a vampire. There's a crazy guy in an asylum who wants to consume life, which I think is sort of being drawn on here with the asylum bit. There's wolves, not werewolves, but wolves. There's a ghost ship. There's a bunch of, there's a sort of grab bag variety of horror genres. But yeah, the point here is like sort of the trope of the insane person in an asylum, who the sort of attending doctor is like confused and wondering about is I think it's a pretty direct influence here.
Yeah, I'd say so. And I think him being a doctor, even though he's a strange one, considering, uh, it's a certainly a continuation of a literary trend, and it makes it also. And the reason it's a trend in the first place is because a doctor is somebody that people generally look to as an authority. I think.
Right. And they're also supposed to be sort of skeptical, scientific, right? They're sort of the Enlightenment man. So yeah, so presumably, if the monster can impress the doctor, then truly it's a real monster, which is what happens at the end. But we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, I guess another very subtle theme about this could be, or not subtle, but not touched upon as much as it could be, would be uh, kind of science versus like primal evil. Like he's beyond our understanding. The doctor eventually, but the doctor has already come to acceptance of this before the film starts. As
Kind
you could
of.
see
Yeah.
you could see, generally speaking, because you could see it in his conversation with the nurse initially, where
Right.
he says it and she says you should probably refer to him as him, and he said and he disagrees completely. Because he by that point he recognizes that this is something different than he's run into before.
Yeah, that does imply something different because when I first watched this, I didn't really have the context, so I just thought that was a weird interaction. But yeah, that makes
Yeah,
sense in context.
but as you go on with the film, it makes a lot more sense. Let's see. So on to the next scene. I've kind of lost track of where we were.
So we had the
This is
escape, right? We were
yeah.
doing the escape,
We did the escape. Oh, we were having this introductory
right?
conversation, which is basically just setting up the fact that she babysits him. She's a pretty responsible person, as shown by the fact that at the beginning here, her father, who doesn't play anything in the rest of the film, uh, gives her the responsibility of bringing the key over to the old Meyer house because he's a realtor. And it looks like he's heading out of town, which is obviously setting up another thing that there's another avenue of help that she wouldn't have.
Yeah,
Um,
that is definitely something of a theme throughout the movie is isolation, right?
yeah, in fact, did I feel like if you look at her notebook when she's doodling, let me see if I can find it. Where is this? I feel like, oh no, maybe maybe I read an old draft or something. I thought that would have been too unsubtle. In the original draft of the script, she was writing down, Laurie Strode is lonely, uh, which is really on the nose.
A bit much, yeah.
Yeah,
But right, sort of the consistent theme is if you're gonna die or get attacked, you're gonna be alone.
yeah, you've only got yourself to rely on, which comes back later when the neighbor doesn't help her either.
Yeah,
Um, but
I mean it's a very sensible thing,
yeah,
but it is nice that it's properly set up, properly introduced, properly utilized, and it helps keep the danger effective.
yeah, I absolutely agree. I think the way the film connects most of its themes works. It's just that there's a few that stand out, and they stand out because, as we've said, the rest of it is great. There's a lot of thought put into it. Um, Obviously, this scene setting up all the connections, and now Michael has a fixation on her because she is similar. At least the assumption we both could make is that she's similar to the sister that he killed earlier. Um, and then, of course, it's Halloween Day, so
I
and
also
he has
like
a
how
compulsion to kill.
it also sets up the characterization of the children as sort of matter of factly saying, this place is haunted. There's the boogeyman. It's dangerous on Halloween. The children are
Yeah,
sort of dispensaries of common sense.
I think our favorite line was here. Oh come on, sorry. Where he says that's a spook house.
Yeah, it's a spook house. You know,
which is
like
it is what it is.
later on, it's like the boogeyman was outside. You know, these are all very literal truths.
Yeah. Um, and to a kid, it is just the truth, and it becomes even more true as time goes on. Obviously, adults can dismiss it, so there's a theme of that as well.
I think that there might be something there with sort of this notion that the children are in tune with the supernatural. That's why Myers is introduced as becoming a killer as a child. Um,
Yeah, it, I would argue that too. The movie doesn't play a lot on that. I don't think, except for the
but
bit where there are a few moments where he sees Michael and nobody believes him, where this comes up.
it's like a typical trope of like gothic literature that
Yeah, and I
it
think it's a
borrows from
trope.
romantic period.
It's a trope of culture in general. I'd say. Um, I think I think most people tend to, well, not most people, but culturally, uh, the idea that kids are more in tune with the supernatural is an idea that I've just seen out and about, uh, kind of permeate society.
Or
So
just like generally that like innocence and being in tune with spirit, reality is connected. Um,
yeah, and this is also a creepy shot. Uh,
you know, and like that's a binary thing because on the what or ambivalent because on the one hand that might mean you're in tune with good reality, and then the other it might mean that you're vulnerable to evil realities. Right, so that's sort of the
yeah, the kids are all, in this movie are very matter of fact and straightforward because of that kind of innocence that leads them to be more aware of people like Michael here.
yeah.
Okay, so next we have, okay, we've gone over this segment here pretty much, but they're taunting him about the boogeyman. The boogeyman is going to come get him.
Right. It's kind of
Which,
curious.
yeah, go ahead.
That's another thing. I don't know what happens in the sequels, but it feels rather ambivalent here whether or not Myers would actually attempt to harm a child. I think the real register here. I mean, on the register of horror, it's he's stalking a child. That's scary. But on the other hand, you might suspect that he feels as much as he can a kind of sympathy for him because he's being bullied right now, and so he
Yeah,
sees himself in the kid.
I think in a more standard movie there would have been a scene where Michael confronts the bullies or something. You know, I think it's good that they leave it a little bit more ambivalent.
Right.
And I mean, this scene could also be interpreted. This here could be interpreted that way as well. It's like, oh no, goodbye.
Yeah. But like he doesn't actually he does attack people in the presence of children, but he doesn't seem to go after the children specifically at any point.
No, in the end of the film, the climax, he doesn't chase the children either, even when she sends them off and they're obviously easier targets.
Yeah.
Um,
So perhaps that is sort of an implied part of it.
I get the sense that this is something that maybe sequels would ruin. You know what I mean?
Probably,
Uh,
yeah.
uh,
It's almost better to. I think it is in general best to leave these things to imagination.
yeah, that's definitely a problem that sequels in general have, is answering questions that didn't need answering and were only interesting because they were unanswered.
It's
Um, we
reality
still,
can often be disappointing.
yeah, we still, yeah, we don't know anything about the rest of the franchise because we haven't watched any of them.
Yeah.
So we're just taking it from purely the perspective of, oh, we watched this film right now. Um, so let's see, it's him following along here.
Yeah. And I said, that's a great shot. This next shot's also pretty good, I think.
Yeah, I
One
like
of the
this.
better shots with Pleasance.
Yeah, he's arguing on the phone, saying, "Oh, you got to find him." And then he's finally tracked down part of the trail. Wait, I forgot. I also want to. Was it here? I like the. Yeah, where the guy is in the. You can see the guy off to the side here, murdered
Yeah.
for his clothes, because Michael obviously couldn't dress in the way he was, and not be noticed. I was trying to find, where is it? When the train passes by, I appreciate that as a cinematic moment. It really feels like he's in a detective movie, separate
Yeah.
from the rest of the conflict.
It really should have been developed more or developed less.
Yeah,
But
either there should have been more.
this scene specifically is really nice.
Yeah, this is definitely not like, I don't know, the Napa Valley or something in California. Oh, this bit with the train. I don't know. I just like that they timed it for just the impact of it.
Yeah.
All right. Obviously, he's discovered this, and
I also like, once again, he's alone, so to speak, on stage. Is framed very nicely. The shot in the hand's pretty good.
yeah, the use of natural daylight works really well for the lighting of this. It's very stark, harsh. Uh, let's see. And he's found that, which he's a clue. On the way we go.
Yeah.
This scene is introducing the personality traits of these three characters here.
Right. And of course, instantly you know who's going to survive and who isn't.
Yeah,
If the
is it the
fact that only one of them was introduced at first
is it,
doesn't answer the
is it the
question.
girl who's smoking the blunt publicly? Is it
Is
uh
it the
the
smoke?
yeah, like the girl who probably says a few too many things for her own good, like that kind of
Right.
thing?
The the one who shouts at the serial killer for driving fast.
Yeah, yeah. Or is it the one who's the main character?
It's the main character.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Is it the typically sexually liberated jeans wearing girls who are going to definitely um, run off with boys, or yeah.
This shot is
But
funny to me.
but we
Unfortunately,
deny that this is a moralistic story.
yeah. I believe the director said that her stabbing Michael with the knife is her manifesting her repressed sexuality, which is, I could see that angle too, I suppose.
I can't see that angle.
It's a little silly. It feels like a little bit ex post facto kind of thing. But hey, he doesn't want to seem to be a moral man, so this is yeah. I like that where she said speeding kills, and then he stops. He's like, I'm gonna remember that, and then
And then
it
he
is,
drives slowly behind their car in the future.
yeah. It's like, oh yeah, speeding does kill. I should be careful. All right, and they're introducing all the situations of the night. They're all gonna be relatively close together on the same street. Um, Two of them are babysitting, uh, and yeah. So there's that. Let's have along. So we explained this sequence a little bit earlier.
Once again, setting it in an actual neighborhood, setting it in the suburbs, all of that, doing all these establishing shots, establishing the isolation, all of that works very well.
Yeah, it is interesting that they're able to set up the isolation within the suburban environment. Um,
Yeah. Really, because it's a suburban environment, you could say.
yeah. And of course, he's gone by the time the bushes. She gets to the bushes over here, taunting him about being a guy who wants to ask her out because she's the lonely girl. Does beg the question: did he just run? Because I want to see the angle from the other side of the bushes.
I want to pause here and note something. This reminds me a lot of the previous shot as well, right, with the natural lighting. Um, and the sort of color composition here, it doesn't feel extremely Octobery. I know,
Yeah,
there's a bit of brown, but the color scheme, especially the clothes the characters are wearing, does help give it this sepia tone.
yeah, I agree. I was actually thinking that while we were watching the film, that yellow, oh, I don't know, what do you call that, a blouse? uh, it really does make it feel like fall. Let's see. She's wearing, I think she's wearing a camo patterned skirt. That's interesting. I didn't notice
I
that
feel
till now.
I feel like the costuming maybe should get a bit more credit here.
Yeah,
And
it's a very normal way for the characters to dress.
I
It
mean, it
just feels it feels real.
feels real. It also works very nicely from a purely visual point of view, like artistically, I think, for these shots.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, you see here that even though her friend was bothering her uh, and making fun of her for it, she still isn't quite past that lingering doubt. You sure? Oh, I guess nobody's there. Maybe I am crazy.
I feel like without any sound, just that shot of her walking down the street looked like it'd be something in an indie music video.
Yeah, you're right. Obviously, we talked about this interaction here.
Right.
So
So we have the sheriff,
introducing him just as a character.
and
Obviously,
also right,
yeah. Go ahead.
him being related to the other. He's the father of the other girl, right?
Yeah, I believe there was a conversation that happens over the phone later that also confirms that.
I think that's kind of nice as well. It didn't have to be that way, but it helps keep the cast close together. Sort of, there's a reason they're there in that time, in that place, interacting.
Yeah, I think so. I think that seems about right. Um, let's see more here. Okay.
Star Wars is really a family drama.
It's all about family. That's why it's so powerful. Let's see. Kids trick or treating, and she's like, "Oh, okay. I'm probably just getting paranoid because of the season. I think." Let's see this creepy, but also silly because it's broad daylight.
Yeah. What you said about that, I actually, it really got to me how often people would just instantly assume that they were being pranked.
Yeah, in this film, in general, everybody's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm being pranked." I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe once or twice. Yeah. See, if I had a reaction like that, I wouldn't react the way she does later.
Well,
Um,
it's also it just sets up not only sort of the time, like, oh, it's Halloween, so everything's a prank, but also, like, I don't know, maybe it gets across a feeling of general cynicism in society, right? So if we're to put on, our little Heath Ledger Joker hats or whatever, I don't know, or think about how we're living in a society. What does this movie say about society? Um, from like the sort of inherently moralistic point of view of this kind of slasher film, I feel like it's setting up not just the isolation of being in a suburban environment and how it can be difficult to, I don't know, connect, uh,
yeah,
but
it,
also that people have very low trust in each other, despite being in a sort of relatively safe environment. Right? People are kind of assholes.
yeah. I mean, and that comes up again later, as I mentioned, with the scene where she's running out asking for help and knocking on doors and things, and nobody's helping her. Uh, which could just be that everybody's cynical about it being a prank. It could be a commentary about people not wanting to get involved in this sort of situation. There's a lot of ways you could take that.
Right.
But I think, generally speaking, it's a very cynical film about the interactions between people and
Yeah.
the way they live in this environment.
Yeah. And I mean, ties in with the police as well. I think it really nicely fits in with the more summery feel of some of these shots. Uh, in the sense, like, it gives that sort of very late afternoon tiredness.
Yeah, like everybody's just kind of laid back.
Yeah.
uh,
I mean,
here
we also
or
see
not.
that kind of in this shot when she sort of plops down on the bed. Right? It's like I'm tired.
Yeah, like, yeah, she's done with school and everything, and then her friend calls, but we don't know it's her friend. She just hears chewing, and because of what's happened outside, she's still paranoid about it. And then she talks and like, "Oh, this is what's gonna happen. I can pick you up at 6:30 tonight."
Comes up later too, doesn't it?
Yeah, she's on her way out. See, this looks more fall-like, probably because there's somebody throwing leaves from behind the camera.
Yeah.
But that's A-okay with me. Let's see. See, there you go. She's like, "Oh, I'm just being paranoid. It's Halloween. Kids are
As much
doing their stuff."
as much as we joke about it being far too green and warm, I think it really does set a good palette.
Yeah, and it's also part of the camera technology at the time too.
Well, that too, I suppose.
But still,
I like it.
Yeah, I do too.
It pleases me.
Here,
Yeah. This is one of the funny inexplicable bits. And it does come up later, but once again, it's still inexplicable.
Yeah, I mean, it's Judith Myers, so it's Michael Myers'
sister's
mother.
Headstone. Oh, or
is it the sister? I think it's the mother, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. Either way, it's a family connection. It would make more sense thematically if it was a sister, though, considering the way it's used later.
Yeah. It still makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
I think it was just an excuse to have the two
graveyard.
Yeah. Like, here's a clue that's entirely misleading. I mean, it misleads the audience into thinking it's somehow significant, but it misleads sort of in the story for real the characters, because they're like, oh, the clue is something's going on in this town, but we have no idea what it is.
Yeah, and I think him following her around town like this is kind of the transition from the crime of passion sort of thing into the more slow, methodical way that he approaches things.
Yeah,
which is obviously, as we said, a little goofy that they're so close, but they're talking. They're high. This is the part that I don't believe at all, though, where they just finished smoking.
Notice his daughter hotboxing it.
Yeah, they don't even immediately smell weed. And this is the scene where he's talking about how, oh yeah, so kids stole rope and a set of knives and a mask. It has to be kids because those are just goofy things to steal. No other use.
Clearly a Halloween prank by children. We never see the rope again.
Yeah, no, the rope was forgotten, I feel. That's okay though.
It's like one of those things when you're like playing D&D or something, like, we'll definitely use this, and then you don't use it.
Yeah.
Rope tends not to be that thing, but yeah.
No. Actually, I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say we definitely use rope.
But I feel like that's sort of the kind of thing that's happening here. Is like maybe the killer is like, I'll be prepared, and then he ends up not needing some of the stuff. But it takes away. I don't know. These little dangling bits of rope and other things does take away from the neatness of the picture.
Yeah. See, I gotta pretend it's kids anyway, and then up comes see, like, immediately he just pops out from his car right there. Hi, there's a psycho killer around.
Yeah, and then the psycho killer pops up. I like how the shot is continuous. That is nice.
Yeah, see, if we go here, we'll see it soon.
And it's right there. He's already at the
a light over there. Yep. I was just waiting for the moment where he's there. He is. It is nice that Michael Myers observes traffic laws. Oh man, this starts a trend for him of missing everything.
I do like it. Like this particular shot, I think it's nice. Maybe it's just the frequency which takes away from these little coincidences and makes it into an inevitability.
Yeah, I agree.
And then an absurdity.
This is just them on the way.
Yeah.
He's following them as you'd
Probably,
expect.
yeah, my favorite shot. Maybe because it's also indicating it's about to be dark.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
got a little bit of lens flare, not much, but a little bit. Uh,
So the
it
unity of time here.
yeah, it's showing that the day is progressing. She got done with school earlier. Now they're off around 6:30. I think is when they arrive. Set this up. Obviously, we mentioned this creepy scene here where he's watching.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now it's them inside the house.
Right, the old house. I kind of like. I do like this shot.
Yeah, this is another one. There's obviously stage lights being used, like up from the side where he is. But I think generally speaking, they don't overlight it in a way that makes it feel more real.
Yeah, has a very true crime feel as well, or
Yeah, they discover
noir.
the dog here. Oh, he got hungry, which is a really strange moment. I feel that's another thing that's a little goofy. It's like, oh, he killed and ate a dog. I guess.
Yeah,
Um, is that upstairs? This is This is his monologue. Uh, it's like he's not human. He's crazy. I might seem like a crazy doctor, but it's because this guy's a psycho.
yeah,
She's just being a decent babysitter. Hey, setting up the dog, and also saying the fact that the dog can sense something's going on, but she's too dumb to recognize it.
yeah.
She thinks that the dog's annoyed with her. Uh, and then I believe is this when the kid sees?
Yeah, this is when the kid sees the boogeyman. I think.
Yeah, I think so.
The first time, I think,
The first time, yeah.
and then he sees him again with a body. I think.
Yes, that's the second time I was thinking of. So then she, you know, she's just a good person, basically. She's just reassuring him. It's kind of contrast between the two types of babysitters.
I think also the babysitters are probably sort of stand-ins for the actual parents.
Yeah, I think so. You can kind of
Right?
tell.
You know, once again, that's sort of we live in a society aspect of the horror genre, but it goes back to like earlier gothic literature as well. Frankenstein and all that. Um, the babysitters kind of stand in for the kinds of parents you might have growing up in suburbia. Right? So we have one who's fairly attentive, who's taking time to listen to the kids, so on and so forth, and the other one, not so much. Not a great cook. Definitely not. Definitely doesn't know how to knit.
No, which is unfortunate for her. It might have saved her life.
Well, walks around half naked in the kitchen. It's
Yeah, and as much as John Carpenter would say this is not a morality story, it's very clear that there is a morality tale happening.
yeah,
Um, oh,
it's
and
just real life.
Yeah, this is where he kills the dog.
It's almost. I don't love this scene because it's almost comic how quickly the dog goes limp.
Yeah, I think that's just a mechanic of they would have to train the dog to do that, and I think it would get a little tedious.
It's also just like systematically removing what can protect you, right? So just like
Yeah,
we got rid of the police, we got rid of the father. Now we've gotten rid of the dog. We're going to get rid of the boyfriend. There's this very systematic unraveling of safety, which, serves the heightened tension.
yeah. This whole sequence here, extended, is definitely there just to build the tension.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because we see she gets stuck. The girl comes over and saves her. And then Where is this? I thought it was sooner. Yeah, there we go. This moment, the second she realized, wait a second, the door was unlocked and the window was fogged.
Yeah. Oh, and this was the first kill that we get. Well, that's technically not the first kill. The first kill of the 3 attempted in the second half of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And also notice, right, although we did see the sort of sensational kill at the start of the film, this is the first kill we're really going to see take place. And we're 2/3 of the way through the movie.
Yeah, it's been a lot of buildup. And I felt the movie itself, the kill itself is very primal and creepy because of it. It's not overdone.
It is. Okay, I do remember complaining. The strangling is like very effective. It's got that sort of vaguely sexual undertone. It's horrifying. It's once again with the grip strength, and then when the knife comes out, it becomes silly.
Yeah, because the sound effect, there's like a swing or whatever,
and the way he moves it and all that, it sort of takes away the sense of the struggle. I feel like if they had cut away to when he, like as soon as he pulls out the knife, and then it was left up to the imagination, it would have been more effective.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Maybe with the little blood splatter on the window.
And the horns honking the whole time, the fact that that never comes up is a bit strange too. Like nobody noticed it because we know everybody's really close.
Mm-hmm.
All right, the kids are watching. Oh yeah, here we go. This is the scene I was thinking of. Hey, it's a boogeyman, and he was trying to scare the girl there, but because what he's seen. Yeah.
The way he's carrying her has got this vague, bride of Frank. Oh, it does set up also what, that he moves the corpses around.
Yeah.
Which comes up later, but it does set up this sort of vaguely, Bride of Frankenstein kind of vibe as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I just find it funny that he was trying to scare the girl, but he ended up getting scared himself because of what he saw. It's like a slight backfiring of the prank, I guess. Oh yeah, the 3 bullies are trying to psych each other up to go break into the house, and then the doctor scares them away, and I have to find the frame to pause on here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, this feels very like appropriate in maybe a Shakespearean production, but not so much in this.
He's very happy to have scared those children.
Yeah.
It's a
I've
little
done
silly.
something good today. I've saved 3 innocent lives.
And this is me maybe stretching a little bit too, but he himself, from trying to scare somebody, gets startled too, just like the boy from earlier.
Yeah.
It's not much of a connection, but it's something.
That he realizes a little too silly.
Yeah. Let's see. On to the next. Oh yeah, setting up this. They do as teenagers do.
Yeah, they're drinking alcohol. They're having sex.
Yeah, we mentioned that this is like just a nice scene in general. It's like, oh, just relaxed, whatever.
And then they had to take it upstairs, and that their fate was sealed at that point.
Yeah. Man.
Once again, we have him like going around assuming he's been pranked because the door's locked or whatever.
Yeah.
And then he gets strangled. And once again, the strangling really sells that this guy is supernaturally strong.
Yeah, I think the knife is unnecessary.
Yeah, the knife was completely silly. Right. And then
then it's even sillier here because of what.
Yeah.
Let's see. I'm just waiting for the side angle. Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
That is not holding him up.
Yeah.
No way. But that's also fine.
I think another thing about the knife is like if Myers is supposed to be supernaturally strong, so he can strangle people with one hand. The fact that his hand shakes when he's holding the knife really like takes away from the impassive, supernaturally strong sensation and turns him into like kind of silly.
Yeah, I do like that he's kind of just admiring his handiwork there. You know, he's just like, yeah, look at the job I did here. This
Yeah.
is the dumbest. Oh, okay, good. I
Oh,
see
yeah,
it.
when he's just
Past.
standing there.
Yeah, come on, skip ahead.
So she's like, "Why are you just standing there, not saying anything, just
Oh
breathing?"
yeah, as a ghost, I cut out this bit because unfortunately, YouTube don't want to show some things.
I don't want to see some things.
Yeah, true. But anyway, uh, there we go. She's dead as well. Let's see. On to the next. She goes over to investigate, and this is when we realize that he set up basically a haunted house for her.
Yeah.
Let's see. Skip ahead.
And the tombstone finally makes its appearance.
Yeah.
Still
The
not
doc.
quite sure exactly what it's supposed, what register it's working on.
Yeah. Wait, maybe it was a little early. Now this is where I think this is where she goes in.
She
I'm
goes
confused.
in, the doors, the doors, the back doors
She's like,
open.
"Stop pranking me," as everybody says in this movie.
Yeah.
There we go. Oh yeah, our beloved daughter or something like. So I guess maybe it was the sister. I mean, I guess the mom's daughter too, but I feel like it
Yeah,
might
probably
be
the sister.
unintentionally. Yeah.
I mean, I
Uh,
guess this sets up, he's still thinking about it in terms of his sister, but like it's a little, you didn't really need that.
yeah, you really didn't. Another one.
That's just there to be a Halloween.
Yeah,
That's like
it
the
really.
one jump scare,
Oh,
really.
oh, you know what? That's what the rope was for.
Maybe.
That's hung up with rope. I cut out the other girl dead because unfortunately another set of boobs. Don't want to don't please YouTube don't demonetize me. I'm not even monetized yet.
Yeah.
This is a creepy, probably a very iconic shot. I'd have to imagine.
That one specifically works the best of these sort of horror moments in the sequence.
It's just good he
Until he does
sucks.
the knife. Until the knife.
Yeah, the knife keeps ruining it.
Yeah. But like just it's this sort of Phantom of the Opera. Just this pale mask appears from the darkness. Very good.
Yeah, and here she is. She's fleeing, asking for help. Um, Somebody's clearly there but not willing to help her, and then
Yeah.
she's able to get in through another house.
The real scary thing you have to understand is sex, drugs, alcohol, and being bad neighbors.
It's the most dangerous thing of them all. Let's see. uh Scroll back a little bit.
There's something that is a real danger to my mailbox around
There we go.
Halloween time.
Stabbed with a with a knitting needle.
Yep.
Thinks he goes down.
Once again, one of the complaints I really do have about the effects is the blood.
Yeah, there should be a lot more. And again, that may be a trade-off with the censors. You never know. It was a little more something a little more squeamish about.
It must have been, it must have been a period thing. It's like, you know what? You can show boobies, but no blood. No
Yeah, I guess
flowing blood.
this was late 70s, so it seems about right. She thinks this is all fine, and he's still unaware of what's going on.
Oh, it's nice that it sets up his appearance at the end.
Yeah, that's
But
true, but it is still funny.
Drags a bit, yeah.
Let's see. She's like, "Oh, we're fine." That cut should be much worse, but that's fine.
Well, it should be bleeding more.
And he's back up. Has to find somewhere to hide. That you note they also set up the balcony being open.
Yeah.
That door.
But yeah, it's interesting how because all the protection is being removed one at a time, like the last barrier is the thinnest.
Yeah. Let's see, use the wire hanger, managed to gets him in the eye, which is very lucky. Picked up the knife again, which he shouldn't have dropped before. I feel like that's gonna be an uncontroversial take. There we
Yeah.
go. Stabbed. Oh, it's fine again, and she's just worn out at this point. Um, like, you guys should go get help or something. Just get out of here. And of course, just behind her, he sits back up. As a force of nature, he's very intimidating. Uh, just the lack of restraint.
Yeah.
I
And it
thought
just
this,
keeps going.
yeah, I thought this little sequence here was pretty compelling too, because she's so wiped out. She thinks it's over with. She doesn't even hear him coming. The tension building is great. And then the accidental, like, slow waddling away, which thankfully does not go for that long.
But also, like, this time, it's like there's nothing left. He's got the stranglehold. And then here comes the detective.
There's
Or
an end to
the
it.
doctor.
No, takes him down. Oh, he's finally dead, isn't he? And then he says, "Oh, it was the boogeyman."
Yeah. I do like that line because it ties it right back to the start. And I feel like it does complete his arc from being not just like a scientific person who's like, oh, this is not a normal human being, but now he's like, I do have a simple answer to what this is.
Yeah, and
This is
now
what the children said. It's a boogeyman.
they're right. Absolutely. Now he's like, well, yeah, should have expected it.
It was him. It was Halloween all along.
And it pans around the neighborhood. Let's see, and then that's the credits. So, go back to this layout here. Overall, a great film. Well, I'll say a good film. I think great might be a little bit above its pay grade.
It's not very scary, at least like watching it in normal light in a room that isn't very spooky.
Yeah, it wasn't very scary in the dark either.
But I think like in general, the horror of these kinds of things really do come from the situational realities and not so much from atmosphere, which is kind of a weird thing to say about horror, but
Yeah, I think that's something that we didn't really mention because we had the audio off for this little skim through here, but the score sometimes overplayed itself on occasion. The sound effects as well, but mostly with a knife. It's like this sort of weird. I don't want to say it was like a sci-fi kind of sounding noise that they associate with a knife sometimes, which doesn't really work. It just adds a fantastical layer that doesn't feel all that good.
mm-hmm. But
Yeah,
no, I think the film had a lot of strong themes that worked well. A few themes that weren't really developed properly or felt unnecessary, even if it was developed and kind of made sense. Like the tombstone, right? It just felt a bit excessive.
yeah. You can tell why it did so well, and you can tell why it's really it really started the trend of this kind of film. But there are a few flaws that kind of keep it from being great. It's very culturally significant, though, I'd say, as far as cinema goes.
We live in a Halloween society.
Yeah, we kind of do.
You know what it is about the tombstone that bothers me? It's something that doesn't belong in a suburb.
True. Obviously, they got it from outside the suburb, but it doesn't feel fitting.
And that could be the sort of the commentary on suburban culture, but also it doesn't really sell the horror of the situation quite as well.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's a
What,
little goofy, and I think maybe that's the intent as well.
I
With
don't
that
know.
sequence, it's a little goofy, but also creepy.
I mean, on the other hand, I could totally see a bleached William Shatner mask fitting into a suburban society.
Yeah, I mean that's just half the people you have as neighbors, right?
Oh, something we should mention.
Hmm.
Um, remember, right at the end when he's about to get shot by the doctor, or right after he gets shot, something like that. The mask comes off.
Oh yes, we skipped right over that. Um, that and that's what distracts him enough that he can be shot by the doctor. I think.
Yeah, but he puts it back on.
Yeah, he becomes so fixated on putting it back on that distracts him.
Yeah, and then he's shot with the mask on. But and so that sort of concludes the story by having Myers not be a human character.
Yeah, it's like a rejection of his humanity in a
Well,
way.
it felt on my first being a little bit like a fake out, because I was like, oh, are we going to see he was a man all along? And it's like, well, no, actually, no, we're not going to do that.
No, that's not what he is, and that's not what he wants to be.
There's the boogeyman.
He's got a single focus. That's why he doesn't talk.
I wonder, I mean, I think it worked well, the boogeyman line, but I wonder if it would have worked quite as well if it wasn't Pleasant saying it. Or
Probably
at least
not.
his character saying it.
It would have been maybe. I think it was good to connect the kind of story for the kid as well into
Yeah.
it by having that said, but it could have been more compelling to just have the kid say it himself.
No. I think it's compelling because the doctor is acknowledging that the kid is right.
Hmm. And that she's right as well, because I think she says it right before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's the wrap up for the film. We're kind of giving our final thoughts already, but do you want to just
Yeah.
do that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not an expert on spookiness, but I would rate it not extremely spooky, but a little bit occasionally horrifying. Um,
Yeah, it's definitely a horror film of its time. Horror has gone a different direction. Our society's
uh,
gone a different direction.
I
It's just a
give
different place
yeah,
entirely.
I give it probably 6 or 7 indie music videos out of 10.
I won't give it a number, but I will say it's worth watching at least once. I think, especially if you're into this genre at all, and I'm sure maybe you already have. A lot of
Yeah.
people likely have, but if you've watched just the new trilogy, I've heard the newest of that was been widely panned. So maybe this will give you more of what you want.
Hopefully, I certainly appreciated it. I thought it was a movie that was easy to appreciate. Um,
Yeah, it's and that's something it definitely has over a lot of horror. Is that there is clearly artistic vision behind it. Uh, I think there's an effort level that's put into
yeah.
it that isn't present in a lot of other films.
For its flaws, for its few stray issues that didn't seem woven in quite perfectly, it still felt much more like the production of a person or small cast rather than some kind of studio abomination, which, makes sense.
Yeah, because it really was. It was there is apparently a lot of back and forth about whether it actually was originally going to be called the Babysitter Murders. I think it's because there was a film that was the guy who produced it. What was his name? His last name was Akkad or something. He showed up in the opening credits. He had a film that he wanted to make that was that, and then
Hmm.
Carpenter signed on and turned it into this. Uh,
Could be.
but all the same, I would definitely give it a recommendation. Hmm. I think
Yep.
I think most people would enjoy it. Probably enjoy it a bit more with the lights out, though.
I don't know. Maybe a little soft autumnal afternoon light coming in through the window will give it that nice.
Enjoy
Um,
it with the sound of rain and a nice cup of tea.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, it's it's got a nice pleasantness to the eyes for the most part.
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's a very nice film to look at for most of it, which is
Mhm.
why the horror is creepy in contrast.
Yeah.
I think a
When the
lot of
horror works, it works because of that.
yeah, it's the juxtaposition. Um, all right, well, that's it for this episode. I think we'll be back not next Sunday, but the Sunday after. I'll be back next Sunday, but Sleepy here is doing it every other week with me. So I hope you all enjoyed, and it'll be good to see you all next time, hopefully.
Yeah. Thank you for watching.
Yeah, there's been a few people here. Nobody commenting besides me, but I see a few likes, so that's nice. Yeah, thanks for doing that.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. Until next time, we'll see you around. Have a nice Halloween. I guess stay copacetic.
All right. Bye bye.